Somewhere right now, there is a case file sitting in a box, dusty, labeled, forgotten. Inside that file, a name no one could confirm, a face no one recognized, a family that stopped waiting for the phone to ring years ago. Police worked it. Detectives ran leads, and then at some point, they moved on. Because that's what you do when the trail goes cold. You move on. But the internet does not move on. Somewhere else, at 2 in the morning, a person is sitting in front of a screen. They're not a detective. They have no badge, no jurisdiction, no access to sealed evidence. They found a case on a forum, or stumbled onto a missing persons database, or clicked a link they were never supposed to find. And something about it wouldn't let them go. That's the thing about cold cases. The official investigation ends, but the human need to know, to name the unnamed, to find the missing, to give someone's story an ending, that doesn't follow a chain of command. It doesn't clock out. And over the last 2 decades, something remarkable has started to happen. Ordinary people, sitting in apartments in Australia, in bedrooms in Canada, in offices across the world, have started cracking cases that professionals couldn't. Not with resources, not with authority, with time, with obsession, with each other. Today, we're looking at 3 of those cases, 3 people who deserve to be found, 3 communities of strangers who refuse to look away, and 3 cold cases that the internet actually cracked.
The Grateful Doe. It's the summer of 1995, and 19-year-old Jason Callahan is doing what a lot of kids his age dreamed about. He's following the Grateful Dead, hitchhiking up the East Coast, show to show, city to city, no fixed plans, no itinerary, just music, the open road, and whatever comes next. On June 24th and 25th, he's in Washington, D.C., at the Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Stadium. 2 back-to-back Grateful Dead shows. He has the ticket stubs to prove it. After that, the trail goes dark. On June 26, 1995, a Volkswagen van traveling along U.S. Route 58 West in Emporia, Virginia, drifts off the road and crashes into a pair of trees. Both occupants are killed. The driver, 21-year-old Michael Hager, is identified quickly. His family comes forward. He goes home. The passenger is not so lucky. The young man in the passenger seat carries no identification, no wallet, no ID, no name anywhere on his person. What investigators do find: 2 Grateful Dead concert ticket stubs, $1 in quarters, a yellow Bic lighter, a handmade star tattoo on his upper left arm, and a letter. The letter is addressed simply to Jason. It's signed by 2 women, Caroline T. and Caroline O., and contains a small doodle believed to be of Jerry Garcia. Neither Caroline is ever identified. Authorities trace the tickets to a Pennsylvania reseller. Dead end. There's a phone number in the letter, but no area code. Useless. His face, damaged in the crash, makes visual identification nearly impossible. A forensic reconstruction is commissioned. It circulates in missing persons databases. Nothing. The case goes cold. The young man gets a name, not his own, but the only one anyone has for him. They call him Grateful Doe.
For 20 years, no one comes forward. And that fact alone is haunting. Because somewhere, Jason Callahan had a mother. He had friends. He had roommates who remembered his name, just not his last name. He had people who knew his face. But his mother, Margarita Evans, didn't know which state to file a missing persons report in. She thought he was just being a deadhead, wandering, living free, choosing not to check in. She assumed he was alive somewhere, living on his own terms. So she waited. And Grateful Doe waited with her, in a box,
in a file, in a database that nobody was looking at anymore.
In December 2014, a Reddit user comes across the case. Her username is Gray Metal. She's not a detective. She's not American. She's sitting somewhere, scrolling through unsolved cases the way some people scroll through social media, restlessly, looking for something that sticks. This one sticks. She creates a subreddit, r/Grateful Doe. She posts a reconstructed image of Grateful Doe to Imgur. Within weeks, over 500,000 people have seen his face. The subreddit fills up fast. Thousands of strangers from different countries, different backgrounds, different time zones, pouring over the same details, cross-referencing missing persons databases, comparing physical descriptions, chasing every thread. Then, in January 2015, someone messages the subreddit. A man. He says he recognizes the face in the reconstruction. He says the man in that image looks exactly like someone he used to live with. A guy named Jason from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, a Grateful Dead fan who had been renting a room in Illinois in late 1994, early 1995. He remembers the star tattoo. He shares photographs. Those photographs make their way to a Facebook group. From there, they reach a woman in South Carolina. She stares at the image for a long time. Then she contacts authorities. Her name is Margarita Evans, and she says the young man in those photographs is her son. Jason, her Jason, the one who left home in 1995 to follow the Grateful Dead and never came back. She had no idea he never made it past Virginia. She had spent 20 years assuming he was alive. DNA testing begins. The process takes nearly a year. Bureaucracy, cross-state evidence transfer, the slow grind of official confirmation. On December 9, 2015, 20 years, 5 months, and 13 days after the crash, the Virginia Medical Examiner's Office makes it official. Grateful Doe is Jason Patrick Callahan, born April 18, 1976, 19 years old when he died. The r/Grateful Doe subreddit, the community that had spent months obsessing over a young man none of them had ever met, erupted. Not with triumph, with grief. Because this is the thing about cold cases. Solving them doesn't bring anyone back. It just means they finally get to go home. Jason Callahan went home.
Lyall Stevik.
September 14, 2001. 3 days after the world changed, a young man steps off a bus in Amanda Park, Washington, a small, remote town on the edge of the Olympic Peninsula. Population, a few hundred. The kind of place you don't end up in by accident. He walks into the Lake Quinault Inn and checks in under a name, Lyall Stevik. He pays for 1 night in cash. He says he plans to stay a few more days. He has no luggage, no car, no identification on his person, only a toothbrush, toothpaste, and $160 in crisp $20 bills. He keeps to himself. The staff barely notice him. On the morning of September 17th, a housekeeper knocks on the door to his room. No answer. She opens it. He had lined the closet walls with pillows. He had closed every blind, and on the bedside table he had left 2 notes. One said, "Suicide." The other said, "For the room." Beneath it, the $160, enough to cover what he owed. Investigators get to work immediately. The name Lyall Stevik doesn't exist in any database. No birth record, no driver's license, no census entry, nothing. The address he wrote in the guest book turns out to belong to a Best Western hotel in Meridian, Idaho. Police show his photograph to the staff. Nobody recognizes him. They figure out he arrived on a bus. They track down the drivers and passengers who would have traveled with him. Nobody remembers him. His fingerprints go into international databases. His DNA goes to CODIS, the National DNA Index.
His physical description circulates on missing persons networks. Nothing matches, not a single hit. It's as if he arrived in Amanda Park from nowhere, as if he had deliberately dismantled every thread that could lead back to who he was. The name, investigators eventually realize, was pulled from a novel. Lyall Stevik, note the different spelling, is a character in Joyce Carol Oates' 1987 book, You Must Remember This. A character who, in the novel, contemplates taking their own life. He had chosen his alias with intention. This man did not want to be identified. In 2006, 5 years after his death, his case appears on Sleuths, one of the oldest true crime forums on the internet. Something about it grabs people immediately. Maybe it's the deliberateness of it, the pillows in the closet, the exact change left on the nightstand, the alias from a novel about a character who wanted to die. Every detail feels chosen. Every detail feels like a message from someone who was clearly intelligent, clearly in pain, and clearly determined to disappear. A Reddit community forms. Then a dedicated subreddit, r/Lyle Stevik, grows to thousands of members. They scour missing persons databases. They post his physical description across social media in multiple languages. They reach out to law enforcement in multiple states. They dig through Native American missing persons registries after noticing features in his forensic sketch that some interpreted as indigenous ancestry. For over a decade, they get nowhere. But they don't stop.
In 2017, a Reddit user from the Lyall Stevik community reaches out to a newly formed nonprofit organization called the DNA Doe Project, a group of forensic genealogists who use cutting-edge genetic technology to identify unidentified remains. The DNA Doe Project agrees to take the case on one condition. They need $1,500 to cover the cost of DNA sequencing. The community raises it in under 24 hours. In January 2018, a sample of Lyall's DNA is sent to a lab for sequencing. By March, the results are uploaded to GDmatch, a public genealogy database where ordinary people share their DNA in the hopes of finding relatives. And then, a team of nearly 20 volunteer genealogists begins the painstaking work of building family trees, cross-referencing DNA matches, following branches, ruling out dead ends, tracing ancestry across generations. Hundreds of hours, weeks of work. Eventually, a candidate, a man from California, relatives in northern New Mexico, a family tree that fits. Investigators contact those relatives. One of them produces something extraordinary, a set of the man's fingerprints taken when he was a child as part of a school safety program. They compare those childhood prints to the post-mortem prints taken in 2001. They match. On May 8, 2018, the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office makes the announcement. Lyall Stevik has been identified. He was 25 years old when he died. He had been living in California. His family, who had believed for 17 years that he was simply estranged, that he had chosen to cut contact and live his own life, was told the truth. Their son, their brother, he hadn't abandoned them. He had been gone since 2001. The family made one request, and they made it clearly. They asked that his real name never be made public. To this day, the world knows him only as Lyall Stevik, the name he chose, the name he wanted to leave behind. This case raises questions that don't have clean answers. He went to enormous lengths to disappear, and thousands of strangers spent over a decade working to undo that. Was that the right thing to do? Does a person's right to anonymity, even in death, matter? Does it change when a family is left behind, spending years wondering? There's no verdict here, only the weight of it. What the internet did was find him. Whether he would have wanted to be found, only he knew that. His family now has an answer. Whether that answer brought them peace, that's a question only they can answer.
Lavender Doe. October 29th, 2006. Kilgore, Texas. Two men are out shooting in a wooded area off Fritz Swanson Road when they notice something wrong. Smoke. And a smell they can't place at first, and then do. They find a body, a young woman lying face down on a pile of burning brush, wood stacked beneath her, wood stacked on top, a gas can lid nearby. She is still on fire when they find her. Investigators arrive. The scene tells a story, not of an accident, not of carelessness. Someone built this. Someone brought wood, brought gasoline, and tried very deliberately to make sure she could never be identified. 98% of her body is burned. What survives? A lavender shirt, a few baby teeth, unusual for a young woman her age, and a DNA sample. She has no ID, no fingerprints on record, no missing persons report matching her description. Investigators commission a clay reconstruction from her skull. They release it to the public. Tips come in. Every single one leads nowhere. The case goes cold. And because she was found in a lavender shirt, because that was the only thing left of her that had a color, she gets a name. Lavender Doe. Here's what makes this case different from everything else we've covered tonight. Investigators actually had a suspect, early. Forensic evidence recovered from Lavender Doe's body pointed to a man named Joseph Wayne Burnett, a convicted sex offender with a history of violence. His DNA was in the system. It matched. But here's the problem. Without knowing who she was, without a name, a family, a paper trail, there was no case to prosecute. A confession needs a victim. A murder charge needs an identity. Burnett walked. He served time on a parole violation, failing to register as a sex offender, and was eventually released. Lavender Doe stayed in the ground, unnamed, her killer breathing free air. And then, in 2018, Burnett did it again. A woman named Felicia Pearson disappeared after she was last seen with him. When investigators arrested Burnett for Pearson's murder, he started talking. And as he talked, he confessed to something else. A young woman, years ago, a Walmart parking lot in Longview, Texas. She had been selling magazine subscriptions. He offered her a ride. In his own recorded words, he opened his toolbox, took out a rope, and put it around her neck. He couldn't tell investigators her name. He didn't know it. But now they had a confession. Now they needed her identity before he could ever face justice for what he did to her. Kevin Lord is a former software developer from Killeen, Texas. In his spare time, he does what thousands of people across the internet do. He follows cold cases, cross-references missing persons databases, tries to connect dots that official investigations have missed. Lavender Doe's case has been on his radar for years. When the DNA Doe Project, the same nonprofit that identified Lyall Stevik, opens its doors to new cases, Lord pushes them to take Lavender Doe. He joins the team alongside two other volunteers, Lori Gaff and Missy Koski. In October 2018, they receive her DNA profile. They upload it to GED Match, and they start building. Distant relatives emerge from the database. A possible cousin living in East Texas, just 30 miles from where the body was found. The team reaches out. She has no idea who the victim could be. They go deeper. 25 first cousins on file. Family trees expanding in every direction. Branch by branch, name by name, they work their way toward a woman named Robin Novotny, the right age to be a mother, married to a man named John Dodd. The family history is unstable. fractured, painful. It fits. And they had a daughter named Dana. Lieutenant Eddie Hope of the Gregg County Sheriff's Office tracks down Dana's half-sister, Amanda Gadd, in Florida. He sends her a composite image, a reconstruction of what the young woman found in Kilgore might have looked like in life. Amanda looks at it. She breaks down. It's her sister. It's Dana. Dana Lynn Dodd, born September 6, 1985 in Jacksonville, Florida, 21 years old when she died. She had left home years before, chasing work with a traveling magazine sales company, drifting further and further from the family who were desperately, quietly searching for her, calling hotlines, filing reports, reopening the wound every 6 months just to see if anything had changed. They thought she was up north. They had no idea she had made it to Texas. On February 11, 2019, 12 years, 3 months, and 13 days after her body was found in those woods, Dana Lynn Dodd got her name back. In December 2020, Joseph Wayne Burnett stood in a Gregg County courtroom and pleaded guilty to her murder. He received 3 consecutive 50-year sentences. The prosecutor called him pure evil. He called his own guilty plea a way to get it over with.